I never thought I would be in a position where I'd share something so deeply personal, but it's been weighing on me and I feel that putting it into words might help me see things more clearly. My wife and I have been married for 5 years, and I've always believed our relationship rested on trust, respect, and honest communication. For the most part, it felt true, until about 7 months ago, when she told me something that nearly shook the ground beneath our marriage. At the time, she was 4 months pregnant with our first child, a boy we had longed for after nearly a year of trying. We were overjoyed, counting ourselves incredibly fortunate, and we spent countless evenings talking about names, each of us suggesting ideas. I leaned toward honoring my grandfather, a man who practically raised me after my father walked out. My wife seemed fine with it, so I thought we were on the same page. Then one evening during dinner, she hesitated before asking, "What do you think about the name Tyler?" Her voice carried an undertone that immediately put me on edge. I didn't think the name was bad, but before I could answer, she swallowed hard and admitted, it was the name of her ex. I almost choked on my drink. The words cut through me. "You want to name our son after your ex-boyfriend?" The question flew out, sharper than I meant, but it was such a bizarre suggestion that I couldn't process it. My emotions spiraled. Confusion, jealousy, even a flicker of betrayal. Who does that? But she sat firm and simply said, "It's important to me." From that moment on, things changed. My head filled with doubts. Was she still hung up on him? Had they reconnected somehow? Our once open communication started unraveling. Every time I asked for more, she grew upset but offered no clarity. The tension seeped into our lives, noticeable even to family and friends, though I was too embarrassed to admit why. One evening, my mother invited us to dinner, perhaps sensing the strain. When she casually asked if we had chosen a name, my wife answered without hesitation, "Tyler." My mother looked startled and asked why. My wife simply said, "It has a special meaning." That was the breaking point for me. On the way home, anger and frustration boiled over. I told her this was our baby, not just hers, and that I deserved to know why she was so determined to name him after someone she once loved. She pulled the car over, turned to me with tears brimming, and finally said the words that stopped me cold. "Tyler saved my life, and he's gone." Then she told me the story I had never known. Back in her college days before we met, she had been in a serious relationship with Tyler. They had been together for about a year when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Even while his body weakened, he fought hard, staying optimistic, while she stood by him through the treatments, exhaustion, and despair. One night, after leaving a hospital visit, they were driving home when a truck ran a red light. Though sick and frail, Tyler reacted instantly. He yanked the steering wheel so that the truck struck his side, not hers. He was killed instantly. She survived with only minor injuries. Later, doctors revealed his cancer was more advanced than they thought. He only had months left anyway. But that didn't change the fact that in his last act, he chose to protect her life instead of his own. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "He knew he was dying, but he still saved me." She admitted she had carried the guilt and grief for years, never able to talk about it because it was too painful. Meeting me gave her a new beginning, but now, as we prepared to bring our son into the world, she felt compelled to honor the man whose sacrifice made her future, and ours, possible. I didn't know what to say. For days I wrestled with it all. I searched online and found news articles confirming the accident. As I read more, I discovered that Tyler wasn't just brave in that final moment. He had spent his last years volunteering at a children's hospital, giving joy to kids facing battles like his own. He had been the kind of person people don't forget. Eventually, I called my wife to lunch. When she arrived, I handed her a small box. Inside was a keychain engraved with the name Tyler. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. "I've been thinking," I told her. "Tyler is a good name for our son." She broke down, crying in the middle of the restaurant. Through her tears she asked, "Are you sure? What about your grandfather?" I smiled and said, "We'll use his name too, as the middle name. Tyler James. It fits." From that moment something changed. She began opening up, sharing memories of Tyler. Some sweet, some painful, but all of them painting a clearer picture of the woman I married. It made me admire her strength, her ability to love deeply, and the quiet resilience she carried even when I hadn't noticed. 2 months later, our son was born. I was the one who filled out the birth certificate, writing Tyler James. Seeing it there felt right. My wife cried again, but this time, her tears were lighter. Healing, not heavy. A few weeks later, we took our son to visit my grandfather. Watching the old man cradle his great-grandson, whose name carried both history and sacrifice, I felt an invisible thread connect past and present. When I told my grandfather the full story, he listened carefully before saying, "That young man had character worth remembering. Your boy's got big shoes to fill, but with you two as parents, he'll do just fine." Not long ago, we received a package from Tyler's parents. After our son's birth, my wife had reached out to them. Inside was a handmade baby blanket and a heartfelt letter. They wrote about how much it meant that their son's memory would live on, and how they hoped to meet little Tyler one day. We plan to visit them soon. My wife is anxious, but also relieved, ready to bring her past and present together in a way that feels whole. This journey hasn't been simple. There were moments when jealousy and insecurity nearly consumed me, but I'm grateful I chose to listen instead of shutting down. Our son carries the name of a man I never met, but when I look at him, I don't see a reminder of my wife's past. I see our future. Love is rarely neat or easy. Sometimes it stretches across time, binding us to people and stories that came before us. One day, when our son is old enough, I'll tell him why we chose his name. Not because his mother couldn't let go, but because some lives deserve to be remembered. As I type this now, holding my sleeping son in one arm, I know it was the right choice.